Right, welcome back to the shows here. Let's talk about energy, shall we? So as the world grapples with this crisis, you have elevated fuel prices, obviously compounding the supply situation in many countries here. Really against this backdrop of what you would imagine to be counter to that transition, you have Philippine conglomerate Ayala's listed energy group ACEN is actually looking to hasten and accelerate its transition to renewables. Let's discuss this with and more with the company's president and CEO joining us now out of Singapore, Eric Francia. Eric, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show. Hope it's okay to get straight to it.
David Ivan.
Your attributable capacity in terms of the overall assets and portfolio, how large is that? Is that 4,000 megawatts, if I'm not mistaken? And how much of that is operational and how much of that is renewable? Sorry, go ahead.
That's correct, David. We're now currently at 4,000 megawatts in our portfolio, of which 87% or 3,500 megawatts is from renewable sources. And out of that 3,500 of renewables, we're currently operating 2,000 megawatts and currently building 1,500 megawatts, most of which will be operational within the next 12 or so months. We're present in Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, and Australia.
So 12 months. I'm just wondering, when it comes to this energy crisis that we're seeing globally, Eric, does that in any way speed up that transition for you, or actually does it hurt the progress?
No, absolutely, Yvonne. I think there's a silver lining in this current global energy crisis, given the elevated prices of fossil fuel, gas, oil, and coal. It presents a silver lining, an opportunity to really scale up and accelerate the transition into renewables. Renewables have become so competitive these days. I wish that I could say the same of battery storage. Unfortunately, the prices and the supply chain bottlenecks have impacted energy storage, but we believe that it will come back with its downward trend in terms of pricing. So over time, we still believe that energy storage can be scaled up to really unlock the potential of renewables. So there's a lot of work to do, and that's why we were bold and audacious in terms of communicating our recent 2030 aspiration of 20 gigawatts of renewables.
Right, and that takes me into, sorry, it's a very specific question, your coal plant there, and you're bringing forward the timetable to when you hopefully get that out of your portfolio, for the lack of a more diplomatic way of putting that. Is there a revenue hit, and what's that timetable?
Yes. Yeah, the timetable, David, is coal plants usually operate until up to 50 years, 40 to 50 years of technical life. We have committed. We just closed our first tranche. We disclosed that in the last 24 hours. The first 45% of that equity drawdown has been done, 3.2 billion pesos. We committed to operate our coal plant only until 2040, which is 25 years of operating life. So it avoids 15 to 25 years worth of emissions, which is approximately 50 million tons of avoided carbon emissions over 25 years. So it is inspired, this energy transition mechanism is inspired by this innovative concept being initiated by the Asian Development Bank. It's going to be the first in the world. We're excited about this. So basically the proceeds from this transaction will go 100% will go into the renewable investments that we are making to support our 2030 vision of 20 gigawatts of renewables.
And which clean energies, which renewables do you actually prefer to meet the goals that you just laid out there? What's the kind of right mix in terms of the power portfolio?
Right now, we're heavily focused on solar and wind, both ground-mounted solar and onshore wind. But over time, we're currently beefing up our pipeline in terms of the derivatives of this technology. So we are building up a portfolio of floating solar, as well as offshore wind. That's going to be the future, because at some point we will head into land issues. We're not facing that yet, but we do expect that over the longer term we would have to use the water surface as well for both technologies. But of course, we need to complement this with energy storage, be it battery storage or pumped hydro. I think one of the key limitations in rolling out renewables is the transmission constraints, and energy storage is a critical way to address these transmission constraints.
Right, that's going to take money. I know you recently sold the green bond, so I think first congrats on nailing the timing on that. I think you did that while rates were at a window of opportune time, let's put it that way. Do you have any other plans to raise any money, whether that's green or sustainability-linked bonds, or even just the plain old-school bonds, corporate bonds?
Absolutely, David. We currently have a $3.5 billion of balance sheet, and to fulfill our 20 gigawatt renewable vision by 2030, we'll have to grow that balance sheet around 5x to about $16 billion. And that would obviously need a lot of funding. Now, the good news is we still have quite a low leverage ratio of only about 0.4 to 1. So a lot of the near to medium term growth will be fueled by increasing our leverage, including green bonds. There's tremendous demand despite the tightening liquidity in the market. There's still very strong demand, especially among the ESG-oriented investors. Our recent bond, as you alluded to, our maiden Philippine peso bond, 10 billion pesos, was 8.7 times oversubscribed, just to show you the strong demand for ESG-oriented investments. We're also one of the largest issuers of green bonds, US dollar green bonds in the region. We've issued $1.6 billion of US dollar green bond over the last 3 or so years. So we'll continue to tap both the US dollar and the Philippine peso green bond market, among other sources of funding.
All right. Mr. Francia, thank you so much for your time. Eric Francia there, President and CEO of ACEN, joining us live out of Singapore.